Welcome to the Encyclopedia Zone. I am Don Jolly. This is the YouTube arm of Encyclopedia.zone, a new publishing venture by myself. I am a freelance writer here in New York City. I have written for Penthouse Magazine, The Revealer. I've written for the Los Angeles Review of Books. My work has appeared all over the place, and now I'm starting something new. Uh, Basically, I'm going to be doing YouTube videos talking about books and movies, cultural critiques, reviews, and I'm also going to be reading, writing live on the air. And our first entry is going to be HRC 2020 Part 1. This is my political column that I'm writing about the election this year. It's available right now on Medium, although I think it's going to be available at Encyclopedia. It's going to be available at Encyclopedia.zone once we get the site up and running. Uh, and enjoy. This is HRC 2020, Part 1 by Don Jolly. It is almost 2020. I was born before the fall of the Soviet Union in the glorious and uncontested summer of the American Empire, before its rot seeped through the skin, exploding into the 21st century like a corpse grown fat with charnel vapors. I have seen the last futile kicks of the individual, and to a one they live miserably and die young. It's time, I think, to start playing for the winning team. What succeeds in the natural selection of American civilization is a new kind of creature, a creature made up of many minds working in tandem, connected by nerves of media and sinews of industry. The dominant life form on Earth today is the corporation, and human beings are merely its constituent cells. I cannot afford to treat politics flippantly. Politics is a very important part of this new arrangement, and it is not this cell's objective to see his titan stagger. I want, with all my interconnected soul, a steady hand upon the water. I want the beast in which I live to beat with a lion's heart and see with the acuity of owls. I require high standards from a candidate. That's why I'm HRC 2020. Part 1. The Cosmographic Marketplace. Our gracious hosts require we humans behave predictably and encourage compliance through education and entertainment, with the debt inspired by both serving as an additional instrument of control. On paper, I am indebted to the federal government for an impossible sum in exchange for a master's degree in religion. My justification for supporting Hillary Clinton in 2020 is a theological one, as well as an appeal to common sense. It is a testament to Hillary Clinton's savvy and intelligence that she requires no introduction. Without the unnecessary burden of the Electoral College and the rural voters it is meant to empower, she would be president today. As far as I'm concerned, she is president. She has always been president, and always will be. It is her turn. It was her turn. And it will be her turn, most of all. Religion is a term too narrow to describe the ecosystems of belief necessary for the great beast's feeding. Cosmography is better. A cosmography is one's perceived location within the cosmos. Everyone has some sense of it. At its most basic level, a cosmography is what a human being believes about the world beyond their direct sensory experience. It is an individual's knowledge of what exists beyond the borders of their memory and perception. This information can be observed or inherited, but it is most This information can be observed or invented, but it is most often inherited, communicated to an individual through institutional performance and text. The 21st century corporation is a new kind of cosmographic entity, an organism of such diverse complexity that the Supreme Court of the supreme country has granted them the legal rights of human beings. They are creatures of hair and concrete, their brains the electrical impulses flashing across the nerves of mass communication. It is accurate to say that the epoch of uncontested corporatism is a religious one. There is no better word than God for a superior being which shapes human life from birth to death for its own obscure benefit. The 21st century has at last made divinities tangible. It has shown us their stupid, stupid minds. The so-called religious decline is nothing more than a kind of cultural lag, as scholars and students of political science realize that their demographic definition of religion no longer applies. The number of Americans reporting their religion as none on the census is growing as sharply as those who tell the IRS that their profession is none is declining, and this has fooled the experts into believing religion is on its back foot. Not so. Ours is an era of semi-churches, micro-sermons, and steeples that can only be seen from certain angles. It is the golden age of witchcraft. What are most often discussed today as religions are merely cosmographies transmitted by a certain institutional structure and demanding of their adherents significant commitments of time. To be a Catholic is certainly an opportunity for creativity, but at its most basic level, a better Catholic is one who spends more time and or money in the pursuance of their Catholicism. The same is true of Hasids, Scientologists, cyclers, rowers, gym attendees, comic book fans, and Wikipedia editors. The comparison is not meant to undermine the importance of individual religious experience or cast doubt upon the delight of Catholic theology. In our present civilizational arrangement, however, the reason why a particular corpuscle finds itself coursing through a particular vein is a matter beyond microscopic. The soul means as much in the American system as a combination of peptides deployed to command the movement of intestinal bacteria. It is interesting to the specialist and existentially vital to the cell itself, but it has no other utility. What is significant is the dueling of realities which occurs in the marketplace of cosmographies. A person might buy crucifixes or commentaries or donate to the church. They might attend Sunday morning Mass or sneak in on Christmas or sweep up the vestry on Easter. These are best understood as consumer decisions, although they are not purely economic in nature. The pluralism of American Protestantism has blossomed through 200 years of rapidly metastasizing technology into an environment where reality itself can be bought and sold with the alacrity of Chinese plastic. The cosmographic marketplace has always existed, but it has been, for most of human history, a slow machine. Each cosmography depended on evangelists and laboriously copied text and the support of the state for the spread and protection of their message. Now, with mass media technology more widely available than it has ever been, the work of years and centuries can be done in months and minutes. When we consume media or contemplate consuming media or discuss the world media has described to us, we are buying into a cosmography. The currencies employed are time and, for lack of a better word, belief. A person could believe that Trump was hacked into office by the Russians, or that Kennedy was killed by Castro, or that satanic pedophiles run the world. I believe that she will win. There are two markets of primary importance for understanding the modern world: the global marketplace of goods and services, and the cosmographic marketplace of realities. The expenditure of funds defines your participation in the former market, while your expenditure of time and credulity define your participation in the latter. It is these twin commitments that are of interest to the new masters of the earth, and it is some calculus between them which determines whether our lives are spent in service of their tear ducts, or vocal cords, or their miles of antennae. If you believe in the pedocracy, Alex Jones has some coffee to sell you. If you believe in Russiagate, I know a store in Oregon that will sell you votive candles decorated with the constant face of Robert Mueller. Stephen Colbert believes as you do. He believes with you an hour every night, stopping only to advertise cars and pharmaceuticals that, presumably, believe with you as well. Corporations exist because they command the cosmographic marketplace with sufficient skill to inspire the necessary purchasing for their institutional sustenance. That is their only goal, and officers of such business arrangements will say so openly. If corporations are the dominant life form on the planet, then it is this dumb drive for continued existence which rests at the heart of most collective social action, elections included. 2016 was a fight between higher dimensional cockroaches. It is worth discussing in detail. I voted for Trump. I have devoted much of my time since then wound up in cosmographic speculation, attempting to determine how I came to commit the most heinous public sin in the history of American political life. Why did I vote for an obscenity, a permanent corseting of my national character, and a direct subversion of all its cherished democratic norms? Clearly something has gone wrong. Even understanding why I committed the act does not help me overmuch, for I must also contend with the horror of living with myself in the aftermath, feeling responsible for every rank and dignity visited upon my beloved government, since then by the preening toad I helped elevate to power. Like many, I have found it difficult to exist since that election. For me, there is no Lord who can forgive the sanction of popular hate, or Christ who can redeem the crime I committed in the basement cafeteria of a Brooklyn high school on November 8, 2016. The truth, however, is that my sins, like the sins of Donald Trump, are meaningless. Both wayward dons, however convinced they are of their individual importance, are merely heart valves and bits of calcium and electrical storms of semi-consciousness caught up in the life of Boeing, Exxon, Apple, Ford, Foxconn, Amazon, General Electric, and Raytheon, or as it will be known until the end of Pride Month, Gaytheon. I have seen a hidden camera video of Google's head of responsible innovation and global affairs saying, Elizabeth Warren is saying we should break up Google, and I love her, but she's very misguided. That will not make it better. It will make it worse. Because all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do that. I've read that the woman speaking, Jen Johnny, was taken out of context. I've read that Project Veritas, the broadcaster who caught the footage, is nothing more than a series of right-wing stings executed like some perverse descendant of Candid Camera, and thus worthy of lesser standing in public affairs than Alan Funt. President Trump has told me that the tape means Google is rigging the election, and already I can see the hope and possibility of antitrust action against Google acquiring a Republican stench, which may render it politically and economically untenable for Democrats seeking office. Johnny, head of responsible innovation and global affairs, speaks for the cockroaches. Smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do, she said, which means smaller companies exert less exact control of the political and economic behavior of the population. I believe that Google uses this power for good, as Google understands it. HRC agrees and smiles. Good, she says, is money in the bank. Our feelings, our belief, and our political opinions are a dim echo of the need to expand year by year and cover base expenses. We pray to these great animals, these gods of vast banality. Their whims determine our happiness or lack thereof, and the purpose of our existence seems to be to serve their ends, to die afflicted by rank irrelevance. I have come to know my function. I, like Donald Trump, am part of an id. In the terrible years of my political maturity, I have broken bread with militiamen and watched a would-be Ku Klux Klan gather in Washington to drag Barack Obama from his house and make him face the people's justice. For years before the Trump campaign, I posted on pseudonymous message boards that described themselves as alt-right. I won a small portion of internet fame from my association with a famous troll comedian who once prophesied, "Remember, when we win, these people want you broke, dead, your kids raped and brainwashed, and they think it's funny." I have seen guns in the deserts and riots outside of Trump rallies. I have seen idealism die and watched cities burn to the ground, and I have breathed tear gas through the wool of a revolutionary costume. My mind is alive with recollections of years spent pursuing the truth of American political darkness. And throughout the election this year, I intend to cover the topic completely. Although I am HRC 2020, this is an opportunity to reveal what politics is now and examine its superstitious mechanisms. This is a climate to discuss 2016 and 2012 and all those even years to come. Part 2, the day I met HRC. I met Hillary Clinton in Brooklyn during the last campaign. She was holding a town hall event about an hour's walk from my apartment. So I set out on a sun-dappled day and found myself walking on a shady street around the side of a red brick public school. The event was in the gymnasium, and the line stretched around the building. It was mostly women, and being that it was held in a Caribbean neighborhood, mostly Caribbean women. A high percentage of whites were there as well. Many of them brought children. Vendors walked up and down the line, selling the kids hats and tiny American flags and buttons with pro-Hillary slogans. I waited with them. I went to a Trump rally too, but Hillary's crowd was different. It felt earnest, like duty rather than fun. Too many people arrived, and so, as the line moved in, rumors began circulating that some of us would not be allowed inside. They cut the line off just before I could file into the gymnasium, and some harried staffer assured us that they would provide speakers so that we could listen from the street. The crowd grumbled until Hillary herself arrived. She was very short and very old. She had pulled up somewhere down the block in a black car, and as she moved, she kept a respectable distance from the Secret Service agents that followed. HRC approached the overflow crowd and began shaking hands, smiling professionally. She posed for pictures. She stood less than a foot from me, and my shadow fell across her. At the time, I had already begun to lose my sense of mediated sanity. I was reading 4chan, 8chan, NPC. I told myself I was doing research, but for the purposes of that research, I was internalizing a violent and highly infectious cosmography. I had read that the woman in front of me was a mass murderer and had met Moroccans who described in vivid detail the suffering her State Department had created by leveling Libya. I had read she was a Satanist or an employer of Satanists. I had heard she was immortal. I had heard she'd had a stroke and could only perform politically when injected with some proprietary variety of methamphetamine. I looked at the small woman on the sidewalk in front of me and listened to the common birds above us chirping from the power lines. Something was wrong, I realized. So many flaming realities were swirling around this woman, and yet she was so commonplace. She was stiff in manners but accommodating of people. She reminded me of a television actress signing autographs at a convention. The Democrats, too, had their messaging undeniably true. Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person, man or woman, to ever run for president. Hillary Clinton had been in public life so long she was like America's mother and conscience. As Secretary of State, she demonstrated her ferocity and clarity of thought and participated in the creation of that cell phone video of Gaddafi getting fucked to death with a sword. HRC would shatter the final glass ceiling separating America from the equality of its millennium. Hillary was a saint and an international power broker, a pedophile and a cuckold and a liar and a quote-unquote fashion icon. Hillary Clinton was an establishment hack responsible for the humiliation of Bernie Sanders and the embarrassments of his supporters at the cursed convention in Philadelphia. She was an outsider, insider, martyr, and overlord. She meant so much that it all resolved into white noise and at last meant nothing at all. She did not shake my hand, and I did not speak to her. Eventually, she went inside to tend to the town hall, and the overflow cloud was furnished with speakers dragged out onto the school's loading dock. Nervous staffers with clipboards attempted to collect our information for the purpose of donation emails. I was glad to help them out. After all, it was my purpose. In the eyes of HRC, I saw myself completely for the first time. It does not matter who is running in 2020. As I write this, it is June 26th, and the first of the Democratic debates will begin in a matter of hours. It's a good roster this year, one of the best in American political memory. There's What's-Her-Name and Smokey Joe and Oprah's spiritual advisor and Andrew Yang, who is running under the patina of being a tech entrepreneur and is proposing a $1,000 a month dividend for every American citizen over the age of 18. Like Trump, he has attracted the attention of the internet. My favorite Yang ad is a YouTube video uploaded to a channel unaffiliated with Yang's actual campaign. It's about 40 seconds of the 2012 Hollywood film Killing Them Softly. In the clip, Barack Obama is talking on TV. Reaffirm that fundamental truth, he says. Out of many, we are one. Brad Pitt, leaning against a mahogany bar, offers his rebuttal. This guy wants to tell me we're living in a community? Don't make me laugh. I'm living in America, and in America, you're on your own. America isn't a country, it's a business. Now fucking pay me. Cut to text on a black field, the candidate's name. As of this writing, this video has less than 3,000 views on YouTube, a platform under the control of Google and the Alphabet Corporation. Political idealism, apparently, is alive and well. That's why I know my vote already. HRC 2020. Until the day I die.